to this special panel discussion on one of the most crucial issues facing our country. How, as a nation, can we welcome and integrate the thousands of displaced Afghan refugees who arrived months ago as part of the mass evacuations following the tumultuous US and allied forces withdrawal from Afghanistan? My name is Rifat Malik. I'm the editor-in-chief of American Muslim Today, a national digital newspaper whose mission is to inform and empower by transforming the narrative about Western Muslims. AMT focuses on the huge contribution millions of Muslims make in public and community life and counters negative stereotypes in the mainstream media. We want to thank ISNA for arranging this discussion today. And for all those of you joining us on YouTube Live, please, you are very welcome to send in your questions in the chat box, and we will make sure that we get our panelists, hopefully, to answer them. I am now extremely pleased to welcome a highly credentialed panel, which includes 3 Afghan Americans and a seasoned Muslim community leader. Then we're going to have some very brief introductions. First of all, representing the Biden administration, we have Haris Tharin, who is actually on the ground on one of the military bases, I believe in New Jersey. He is the senior advisor at Operation Allies Welcome at the Department of Homeland Security. He is an Afghan-American Muslim leader and the son of a former diplomat whose family fled Afghanistan almost 40 years ago. He was previously the director of the Washington, D.C. office of MPAC, the Muslim Public Affairs Council. Next, we have 3 volunteer members of the Virginia Council of Muslim Organizations, Afghan Refugee Task Force, who are also part of a national effort led by the USA Afghan Ally Refugee Task Force. Co-leads are Yaqub Zagapur, who is an Afghan-American and has been at the center of organizing donations and relief efforts on the ground in Virginia from day one. His co-lead is Rizwan Jaka, a veteran community organizer who's been involved with hundreds of interfaith initiatives and serves on multiple boards for ADAMS, the All Dulles Area Muslim Society in Virginia. Our final panelist is a task force member, Neela Latif, who is the lead for social services and foster services. Once also a refugee, she escaped Afghanistan after the Russian invasion. We're going to start by asking our questions. First, let's turn to Haris. Haris, can you please give us an update on the situation on the ground in terms of the administration's efforts thus far? What are the statistics in terms of numbers of who have arrived, and how is the resettlement process going?
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Rafat, and everyone. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to have this conversation. My apologies for not being stationary and in front of a camera. I am actually at base here in New Jersey, Fort Dix, where we have actually about 11,000 of our Afghan allies and friends who have arrived here and have been here for the past couple of months. So my apologies for not being stationary in one place. But in terms of just some of the background, as many of you know, since the fall of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, in mid-August, the United States took upon an operation to evacuate many refugees, allies, friends, human rights workers, women rights activists, and activists who focused on religious freedom and democracy, who felt threatened and who felt that their lives were at risk, and others who were given the opportunity to leave and start a new life as a refugee in the United States. As many of you can imagine, many of their lives were turned upside down since the Taliban took over the capital and the major provinces. As many know as well, women's education, girls' education has been restricted once again, as they did in 1996. Pretty much stopped at this point. And of course, what we know about the Taliban, their background, their ideology, and their opinions on women's rights, democracy, the rights of minorities, and things of that sort. But that is a different conversation for a different time. So far, since mid-August, we have been able to bring to the United States about 76,000 of our refugees and allies. And about 55,000 of those individuals are on various, what we call safe havens, US military bases in 8 different states. Those states include Virginia, Wisconsin, New Mexico, Texas, and New Jersey. And as you can imagine, no one was really prepared to deal with this challenge. This was a challenge that happened overnight. There was no preparation. There was no process to feed, to house, to take care of medically, and to resettle into communities across America. About almost 100,000 people. And so we at the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State and Department of Defense and really the whole government had to overnight think about how we would be able to bring our allies and our friends here to the U.S., get them through, of course, health and security screening, and then eventually resettle them. We have now, as we brought our friends and our allies here, they were not supposed to stay on military bases for more than 1 or 2 weeks. Unfortunately, because of some public health concern, and with out of an abundance of caution, the CDC, because of some episodes of measles and other issues, and COVID as well, stopped all flights for about a month, a little bit over a month, so that we were able to vaccinate about 60,000 people in this past couple of weeks. We've given them multiple vaccines, at least 4 vaccines, including measles, mumps, rubella, tuberculosis screenings, and COVID vaccines as well. So the whole population has been vaccinated, and now we have started the resettlement process. And as you can imagine, the past 4 years, our refugee resettlement program was really minimized. The previous administration lowered the number of refugee intakes to minimal. Less than 10,000 people we were resettling for a couple of years. Many of the resettlement agencies who were in charge and who were responsible for resettling people laid off staff, shut down offices. And now suddenly we are asking them to resettle almost 100,000 of our Afghan allies and friends, but also continue to resettle the almost 100,000 people who have committed to resettle, who are not necessarily Afghan, but from various different backgrounds as refugees. So it is quite a big challenge ahead of us. One of the most beautiful things is that the Afghan and Muslim American communities have really up to meet this challenge. As you could imagine, we and beds and meals, but things like baby formula, things like blankets, and this is where organizations from California and Virginia and Florida, everywhere, basic needs from across the country, both Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, everyone, all faiths have come together to really be responsive to this kind of this really difficult situation for the people of Afghanistan, but also specifically for this refugee crisis. So this is where we are currently. Our current really posture is to resettle as many people, but that will be a heavy lift because of the challenges of resettlement. As you know, in the U.S., there is a housing crisis. In many cities, there are challenges with affordable housing. And COVID has really impacted the social services of many of the states that we will be sending our refugee and our allies to. And so there are a host of challenges that are lying in front of us because we have not really resettled or settled in or taken in this many people at one time for a very long time. And so we need everyone's support. We need people to welcome these refugees. They will need help in being resettled, help in really integrating and assimilating into societies. help with learning English, help with getting a job, help in getting a driver's license. There are so many things that you can do when people come to your community to support them and really be there for them, to make sure that we allow them to be successful and live the American dream that many of us on this call and those who come to ISNA and all of the other organizations have really lived and seen in their lives. So that's a brief update. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haris. Incredible amount of work that's going on. And of course, in that work, you're being helped by some of the people on this panel today. And I know they've been very assiduous in providing that support. Can I turn to you, Yaqub? Can you tell us how, from the outset, you were able, as an Afghan-American volunteer, to get access to the bases here in Virginia and were able to coordinate efforts in other parts of the country?
First of all, assalamu alaikum, and thank you for putting this program together. And Sarifat, thank you so much, and thank you all the panels. From the beginning, we saw the need to have access to whether it was the Dallas Airport, Dallas Expo, or the bases that our guests were being stationed. So we coordinated our efforts, got in touch with different departments of the government, and whether it be DHS or State Department, and with their help and the help of a lot of the Muslim organizations and mosques, we were able to have access to the different bases in Dallas Expo and the airport. And also the governor and the governor's office was also intimately involved in making those things possible to be able to have access to the bases.
And tell us about that. That's the work that you've been doing locally here in Virginia. Tell us about your role in coordinating the efforts more nationally.
So with the Virginia Council of Muslim Organizations, Brother Rizwan and I, and with Sister Neela and Brother Idris, we've been able to coordinate with different masajid, different organizations around all the bases and all the states, all 5 states. So we've been able to coordinate with them. We've been able to create task forces, and so that way all of our efforts are coordinated. It is not a small task. Not one organization can do that. Alhamdulillah, we have an extremely generous community, and they were all been able to come together. They've all been able to put their efforts together, all volunteers, and work together with all aspects of this a major crisis that we have right now. And alhamdulillah, we've been accomplishing a lot more than I could ever imagine. The generosity of our community, the generosity of our other faith partners have been inspiring, to say the least. Not an easy task, but alhamdulillah, we've been able to do that. We've been able to coordinate efforts, whether it be Texas or Wisconsin or New Jersey, all 3 bases in Virginia. We've had a lot of success, to say the least.
Thank you, Yaqub. Brother Rizwan, I wanted to ask you, and perhaps people don't realize this, but almost all the refugees came through Dulles International Airport in Virginia, and you played a crucial role in helping to mobilize the Muslim community with Yaqub, and you also got interfaith communities involved. So tell us a little bit about the kind of organizations that have stepped forward and describe the process of getting donations and community support for the refugees.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Sister Rifat. Appreciate it. Again, thank you to ISNA, Islamic Society of North America, and appreciate Brother Haris and Brother Yaqub and Sister Neela and all the amazing Afghan American leaders, volunteers, and Muslim community leaders and volunteers, and the multiple faith communities, as mentioned, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, everyone, Baha'i, people calling, got calls from my Baha'i friend from the interfaith group, said, I've got jobs in my company for the Afghan refugees and we'll help train them. So, people coming out left and right to help out. Veterans groups, came out to help spouses of military families. Just in the first few days, they were out there helping out and donating supplies and helping sort clothing. So, just amazing, generosity and welcoming atmosphere that truly represents America, welcoming our Afghan ally refugees, welcoming the stranger, helping those in need, and providing comfort to those that have gone through, trauma that we cannot necessarily imagine, and we have to welcome them. And so amazing partnership. And as Brother Yaqub mentioned, the Virginia government, Governor Ralph Northam's administration, the Deputy Chief of Diversity and Equity, Mona Siddiqui. She was instrumental in working with community partners and to help make sure there was public-private partnerships when this was first happening in Virginia. Also, the Secretary of Education of Virginia, Atif Karni, as well. And we also worked with the State Department as well, the U.S. State Department with Ms. Julie Schlettler Torres and the Deputy Executive Secretary, and then with Department of Homeland Security with Brother Haris and Mr. Fenton and team. And so it's been a multilateral partnership, and the refugees and Sister Neela can talk more in detail about this, of course, but they came around August 13th into Virginia as the hub, and first actually the work started at Northern Virginia Community College, and the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and Department of Social Services were there with all these amazing volunteers. Eventually it transitioned to the Dulles Expo Center, and State Department took more of a lead, and there were many Afghan American community members, many mosques. Brother Yaqub is the chair of the Darul Noor Mosque. I'm the chair of Interfaith and Government with the Adams Center, and the Virginia Council of Muslim Organization Mosques rallied together, the Afghan American organizations, the Afghan Refugee Crisis Committee, which Sister Neela and Brother Yaqub and Brother Idris are the leaders of, amazing mobilization. And so basically, at first, the government actually was not able to accept donations. So that was a challenge at first. And we had to work with the government, with the State Department, to advocate, to say, look, the community is ready to help, to provide clothing, to provide the supplies, to provide prayer rugs, Qurans, and there were many organizations already working with the State Department, like Hussein for Humanity, and many other Afghan American organizations that were already cleared to help out. And so it was a partnership, coalition of everyone trying to do their best to advocate, to provide supplies. Underclothes were important, clothing was important. Now, obviously, in the winter time, winter coats and blankets are critical. And so there was a whole process of coordination working through the State Department. The U.S. Marine Corps at Quantico was phenomenal. They reached out to us and worked with us, and were welcoming of the help and the support. And actually, we were able to work with the State Department and Quantico to get the Afghan American medical professionals engaged, and there were many Afghan Americans that were already cleared to do the interpretation, and more, were volunteering to help. So amazing teamwork, amazing partnership. The infant formula that Brother Haris mentioned, the Mormon community, the Latter-day Saints reached out and said, okay, we'll donate, tens of thousands of dollars of infant formula. We reached out and worked with relief groups, Islamic Relief USA, ISNA Relief, Zakah Foundation, obviously Islamic Society of North America, and many other, relief groups as well that are have been supporting and have been doing great work. And so it's a team effort, and the coalition is, basically, coordination, communication between, equal partners from around the country. There's the Indiana team that's been doing great, and a lot more work that needs to happen, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So thank you.
Absolutely. So as you say, a truly multi-faith, bipartisan effort with everyone coming together. Can I turn to you, Sister Neela? Now, you're playing a very important role in terms of children with social services and fostering services. Tell us about the situation in particular with unaccompanied minors and how you've been able to, if at all, reunite families.
First of all, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good evening. I would like to thank ISNA and Sister Rafat for putting this event together for us. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank all of our volunteers through the CMO, the umbrella group of all the mosques. We really appreciate your support, and also ARC, which is Hussein for Humanity, Afghan American Women Association, Afghan Medical Professional Association, and Fresh Start and Help Point Foundation and Afghan Youth Relief that have joined together under ARC, and many other volunteers that have worked tirelessly to help us. I would also like to thank Harris John for all of his efforts, his work, and his team at DHS and FEMA. We also like to thank the State Department for, with Ms. Julie Torres, to supporting us and helping us in every way they could. And also our Governor Northam's office, in conjunction with Mona Siddiqui and Mr. Atif Karni, the Secretary of Education, that have been very supportive of us. And everyone that's in our churches, synagogues, mosques throughout this state of Virginia, everywhere nationwide that has helped us. We truly appreciate your support and kindness to our community. That being said, we've had a lot of challenges with our unaccompanied minor, and this is a very difficult and emotionally charged situation for our Afghan American community as well as Muslim community. And we hope that we can shed some light on what's actually happening. So I just like to just briefly go over what is actually a lot of information is being sent out. The mosques and us have been sending out flyers throughout, and other great organizations throughout the United States have been sending information to inform people. We just want to reiterate that this is not a regular foster care system. This is not a state foster system situation. These kids will not be going to a juvenile detention center as the south of the border kids usually end up going through. These children are under ORR care, which is the Office of Refugee Resettlement and Health and Human Services. So they are under federal government protection. They will not be released to state. They will only be released once Catholic Commonwealth Catholic Charities, Lutheran Services, NCA, which is Virginia, DC, and Maryland, and also LIRS, which is the Lutheran Services Immigration Services, which is the nationwide branch that has other companies a part of their team. They will be processing people through a foster system, which is a very tedious process that has caused a lot of difficulty for people. It is a 24-page application, very invasive, background checks, FBI background checks, family visits, home visits, financial documentation, and all these items are required. And if you want to become part of that, you have to go through Lutheran Services and Commonwealth Charities. And that's been the issue. And the other part of the issue we've been having is we don't have a lot of young children, which was originally the myth in the community that we have a large population of unaccompanied children. We do not have a large number. They were able to reunify, as of last week, 346 children with their families or a relative member or a party that is approved by their parents. There is 122 children that are currently in ORR care that they are hoping to reunify. If not, they will be at that point moved on to URM, which is unaccompanied refugee minors system, which they get a benefit through the government of till they are age 21 in Virginia, age 26 in California, and every state has their own laws, which gives them a stipend of yearly for clothing. It gives them a medical and dental and also 24-hour service, help desk service, and a case manager. I do not recommend, we've been hearing a lot about sponsoring. I personally, maybe if anyone's interested, they should look into it. I do not recommend sponsoring, as we've seen a lot of cases in the Mexican American community of children that were sponsored from the URM program. And once they're placed in a sponsor's hand, what ends up happening is the sponsor takes full financial and all responsibility for the child. And if the child at that point is left without any benefits, any financial support from the government, and once they're brought into their home, if the family decides at 18 or even prior to that at 19, if they no longer are financially capable of taking care of these children, or they are just not able to take care of them at that point, and if they remove them from their homes, they are left without any protection, any financial means, any healthcare means. They are on their own. So that is a huge responsibility to put on an 18 or 19-year-old child, where we could possibly keep them under the care of ORR and foster them and help them, mentor them, and guide them to the right direction until they are age of 21 or even older, if you can afford to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Neela. I really appreciate your insight there. Haris, can we go back to you for a moment? I wanted to get an idea of how much investment or how much funds the government has been able to allocate for the resettlement process, and what kind of benefits are available to the refugees and their families.
Yes. So in terms of benefits and funding, and it really depends on the status of the individuals. Of course, Congress passed the continuing resolution that was a multi-billion-dollar bill, resolution that gave the resettlement agencies and the State Department and the program for refugee and migrant management, over $1 billion resettlement. Now, family or for an individual who's resettling in a state or in a city, that means if they do go through what we call Operation Allies Welcome, the operation that has officially brought about 75,000 people here and who have been on a base. If they've gone through the health screenings, what they do is they actually, at the security and health screenings, they get a work permit. So they're able to work after they get off the base and get into the resettlement process. They get a social security number. And they're also eligible for multi-month housing stipend and some stipend for food as well. And that is all done through the resettlement agencies. So as the resettlement agencies are given a case, for instance, for a family to settle in Muncie, Indiana, they will help them find housing. They will try to help them find a job. They will try to help them get their school kids enrolled in the school and get a driver's license, and really try to help them integrate, at least at the basic level, with life in America. But as I said before, the challenge is that a lot of the resettlement agencies are really overwhelmed at this point. There's a lack of caseworkers. There's a lack of infrastructure to be able to, just bring people. Usually, this whole process would take about 12 to 18 months for a normal refugee reintegration and resettlement process. And we're doing it all within just a couple of months or 2 to 3 months. So you can imagine, the cultural orientation classes that are usually given, the education that's done, understanding what a DMV is and where to get your driver's license, things that we sometimes take for granted. All of that now is going to be a challenge. And so that's part of the benefits, but there's also, so money exists from Congress to actually resettle people. but it's building that infrastructure with the money that exists in a really quick process and pace that's going to be the difficult part.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yaqub, I wanted to ask you, we were having a chat the other day and you told me about some of the initiatives that you've tried to arrange to make the refugees feel more welcome. Can you tell us about some of those? In particular, you mentioned a kebab day that you organized, and that came partly from your own experience as a refugee many decades ago. So do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. Back in the 1980s, after the invasion of Russians, so we left Afghanistan. We were stationed in refugee camps in Germany. So for several months, we kind of had to slowly get used to the food. We never got used to it at the beginning, and then when people would bring some, there were very few Afghan families there, but when they reached out to us and brought a little bit of Afghan food to us, that was like a taste of heaven. It was just so incredible. So keeping that in mind, and also thinking about that, we as a community thought that it would be a great idea to have this kebab night at Fort Lee in Virginia, which is about 2.5 hours away from Northern Virginia. And we discussed it with our team at the Virginia Council of Muslim Organization, and Brother Rizwan, Sanila, and also a lot of volunteers at the Darul Noor. And we were able to provide a kebab for over 1,400 Afghan guests at Fort Lee, which was absolutely amazing. And we didn't think we were going to be able to do that, but I talked to one of the sisters. They had also done a kebab night in New Jersey, and she gave me a lot of pointers. And she said that, yeah, do this, don't do that. And that gave me a lot of confidence to do it. Otherwise, to be able to provide kebab for 1,400 guests looks impossible. So, but alhamdulillah, everything worked out. A lot of volunteers were involved, and we were able to prepare the food for almost 3 days and then take it there and then cook, do a nice kebab cookout, kebab night. And one of the little boys there, like, this is the first time I tasted kebab in 60 days or 50 days. This is the best day of my life. So that made it worthwhile. And that was shared with all the volunteers that did all the hard work. So alhamdulillah, it worked out really, really well. And also another initiative that we've been doing is that for the past 3 Sundays at Fort Pickett, we're going there and we're calling it Sunday Fun Day. Every Sunday there's about 30, 35, 40 volunteers. We go there and try to interact with families and children, mostly children ages 2 to 12, and take goodie bags. And alhamdulillah, Northern Virginia community has been able to provide thousands and thousands and thousands of goodie bags with all kinds of stuff. So we've been going there, and that's been a huge success due to the efforts of all the volunteers in Northern Virginia, different organizations, but that's another initiative we have done that's been very, very successful.
Okay. Rizwan, just before I ask you a question, Rizwan, I just wanted to say for anyone who's listening to us, watching us on YouTube Live, please, if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to message us, and we will try to make sure that your questions are answered. Rizwan, I wanted to ask you similarly, your experience of efforts that have been undertaken. What kind of initiatives have you been involved with? What has the community been doing for the refugees where you are in Virginia?
Thank you again. No, absolutely. It's a teamwork, as Brother Yaqub mentioned, and again, much appreciation to the volunteers that have done that. And we, really what we've seen is that outpouring of support, from the various communities. And I aforementioned the multiple relief groups that have helped. And I wanted to also recognize Islamic Medical Association of North America, which is also an affiliate with Islamic Society of North America. They've also been very helpful in trying to support multiple initiatives, working with the Association of Afghan American Medical Professionals, UPNA as well, and many others, have come together. And so just seeing that amazing support that everybody wants to help in those different ways. We partner with Multi-Faith Neighbors Network, which is a evangelical Christian, Muslim, and Jewish organization. They did a nationwide, refugee collection of supplies, hygiene kits, etc., early on. And so we hosted that as well in the locality. And so again, seeing all the great support there. Also want to make sure we recognize Sister Hannah Karimi and the A1 Nationwide Commercial Warehouse. They were instrumental in and still are in being a warehouse. They were near the Dulles Expo Center, which was the first major place for the Afghan refugees to be stationed before they went to the 8 bases. And so Sister Hannah Karimi and many of the volunteers, including Sister Neela and many, were basically providing supplies to the warehouse, and then it was being distributed to the different bases and still is being distributed to the different bases. So just seeing it's inspiring to see the amazing volunteer support and efforts that are being mobilized out there. The one other item that I wanted to make sure mentioned that out of the 75,000 evacuees, about 11,000, maybe even more than that, are green card holders or U.S. citizens. They were living in Afghanistan, and obviously during the evacuation had to leave everything behind. So we had to mobilize together, working with the Virginia government, with Deputy Chief Mona Siddiqui and the Department of Social Services and all the various organizations, to raise money and in partnership with the United Way to support the green card holders that they get no support. Right? They don't get any of the refugee assistance. They don't even get the support that U.S. citizens get. And so I want to remind the Muslim community and the American community that keep that in mind. There are 11 to 15,000 kind of green card holders or legal permanent residents that will need some support and help because they won't get it through the resettlement process. Now, also want to remind going forward that, as Brother Haris mentioned, that, there is resettlement agencies. There's actually 9 resettlement agencies that are, and each state will have several of them, not all 9, including, Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, or Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, Catholic, charities, etc. And there are 9 of them that you can find on the web. But basically, we encourage each community to look for those resettlement agencies, Afghan Americans, Muslim Americans, to apply for the jobs that those agencies have, as well as volunteer to support. Now, each refugee will get $1,225 per refugee, and that's the financial support for the housing and the basic support. And so, as we know, there's a housing crisis in the U.S., affordable housing crisis. And so we need to make sure to help find affordable housing and, communities that are, close to Muslim communities, Afghan American communities, so that they can have the support from the community. But we also want to remind the mosques and all the Afghan American organizations to be ready to help because to help find the jobs, right? So job placement is critical. People to donate rental car, used cars, as well as furniture. So those are 3 key elements. And, Brother Yaqub and through his leadership, and actually Fresh Start, Sister Maggie, is coordinating a warehouse in Virginia that's going to take the furniture, donations, and then distribute them. So these are critical reminders that even with the humble support that's given through the government, the job is going to be critical for self-sufficiency, and then maybe 10 to 20% will still need help. And so the mosque social services, the mosque zakat committees need to be prepared to provide that help. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you for that, Brother Rizwan. Brother Harris, a community member here in Texas wanted to ask a question to you specifically. It was about the situation in Afghanistan in terms of refugees or family members who are still out there in Afghanistan. Does the government have any idea of the numbers of people who are there? And is there any expectation or timeline or process for getting them into the States?
Yes, so we definitely still have various categories of individuals who are in Afghanistan. Many of our refugees and our allies who've arrived are one the biggest thing on their mind, and the one question that they keep asking us is, when can we bring our families? When can we bring our moms, our dads, our spouses, our children? As you can imagine, in the rush and in the difficulty of the last days of the fall of Kabul, so many families were separated. You have spouses who are separated from each other. You have children who are separated from their parents. You have siblings separated from each other. So it's really difficult. And one of the biggest worries of our allies and the refugees who have arrived is how do I make sure that I get my family here? And also, we also know that many Afghans are in danger. Their lives are in danger. Women's rights activists, human rights activists, those who worked in media. Afghanistan had the most vibrant media infrastructure and ecosystem in South and Central Asia for the past 15 years. Freedom of speech was something that was, especially in the cities, was very important. There were many media outlets, many reporters, journalists, and many of those individuals are now in hiding and afraid for their lives, and how the Taliban will treat them. Many former security forces. We're hearing many reports of extrajudicial killings and assassination by the Taliban of so many different people. So we know that many people are in hiding at this point. And so what we're trying to do is ensure that people know that there are ways that family members, there's humanitarian parole, P1 and P2 visas, and the government is in the process of trying to establish the infrastructure and network around in places like Doha, Qatar, and other countries in the region to try to start to slowly get people out. That will require some cooperation from the Taliban. It will require some cooperation from third-party countries, especially for the visas like P2 and humanitarian parole, where people need to be outside of the country. And so that infrastructure is going to take some time. Congress has instructed, as part of the CR, to bring those who are U.S. citizens, who are SIV, special immigrant visa holders and applicants, and green card holders who are in Afghanistan, to make sure that they get out. And so the State Department is working to set up that infrastructure. And if anyone has any questions about that, I think the best thing you can do is talk to an immigration lawyer, especially one that is affiliated with this operation and knows the intricacies of this operation, to get some help.
Thank you so much for that, Harris. A quick question for you, Yaqub, and it's from someone called Yaqub. How can we participate in the ethnic food distribution at these camps?
Thank you very much for that question. So what they could do is we put out volunteer lists almost every week for all the weekly activities. Soon we are going to have a kebab night for Quantica. We're gonna try to serve kebab for 6,000 of our guests. So that's when we're gonna need a lot of support. And at the same time, we're gonna need a lot of financial support. All these efforts are done through individuals, through different NGOs. And then I wanna thank Islamic Relief for supporting us with the kebab night efforts, and they have done a substantial donation already. And also to volunteer simply to either Adam's website or darulnoor.org, and there they can volunteer, and I'm always available. They can always reach out to me personally. And we have a lot of the teams that are, each one is coordinating different tasks. And also, when it comes to the kebab night, I want to especially thank the Hakimi family, Sister Aziza Hakimi and Brother Nasser Hakimi, for doing such an amazing job. And for the Sunday Fun Day, the two lead team, Shakiba Murad and Asma Azimi, they are the two sisters, have done an absolutely amazing job. They are the ones that are the forefront of the Sunday Fun Day initiatives. So right now, if they are far and they want to help, anyone who wants to do that, they can definitely donate. So we want to do more of this. We want to. Fort Pickett has requested that we should do a kebab night for them, but there are almost 7,000 to 8,000 guests there, so that's going to be extremely expensive. However, if we get collective donations from everybody donates and everybody tries to volunteer or donate supplies, then we're definitely going to be able to do that. So thank you very much for that question.
Okay, and there was a question about, can you share warehouse information for furniture drop-off in Virginia? And Neela has actually posted in our group that it's Potomac Mills Mall in Woodbridge, Virginia. So, and I think the other thing that you're saying, Brother Yakuba, is that local community members can contact the usual nonprofit organizations, Muslim nonprofits like Islamic Relief and ISNA Relief, etc., and they will help to coordinate their donations to the Afghan effort across the country. So thank you for that answer. Another question for you, Haris. When will Afghans arrive from countries who are actually in countries such as Albania, North Macedonia, UAE, and Qatar? When will they arrive in the US? Do we have a timeline?
So we do not have many people left in what we call the lily pads, which are the overseas operations right now. Places like UAE, Qatar, and Germany, Albania, and Kosovo. Most of the people for the past week and a half have actually cleared. We are under 4,000 people left at those locations, and they will also be clearing in the next week and a half. So the flights are coming in to Philadelphia Airport on a daily basis. So those locations will be cleared up within the next few days. Every day we're receiving folks, we're processing folks here. It's been a bit easier because since the flights had been grounded, we were able to do many of the security and health checks and clearances overseas in what we call these lily pads. So at this point, they should be here within the next couple of weeks, and we will be clearing out all of those bases shortly.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think a lot of people may not realize that some of these people, refugees, our guests, have been in the bases for 2 months. And obviously they're desperate to get out into the communities and get resettled and start their lives here in America. I wanted to go back to you, Neela, with a question about fostering services. You had mentioned to me before that of those children that may need fostering, there is an issue about the lack of Muslim households who are willing or who have signed up for fostering. So can you tell us about that situation?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. So currently we are asking the community, Afghan Americans, as well as the Muslim community to step in and help out as much as they can. Currently in the Virginia, Maryland, DC area, we have 10 families going through the process. In the greater Richmond area, we have 2 families, and the state of California, we have 3 that have gone through Lutheran or LIRS or Catholic Commonwealth Charities, which will be the ones, the only agencies that are allowed to allow foster care for these children. We really need that support from the community, the Afghan American community, and also the Muslim community and other communities that have been supportive of us. The other issue we're also having is that there is several siblings, and they need to keep that in mind when doing this process. This might be difficult for some. So if the Afghan American community, certain members can't do that, we ask that the Muslim community, if you can do that, please help with that. We have a group of individuals that are part of these accompanied children that are within the age of 16 to 17, which will be aging out of the system through ORR. But in order to protect them, these agencies have decided to move them over to transitional homes prior to them turning 18, so their benefits are not relinquished under the URM program. And they're filing their paperwork through the courts to get them that status, so they do receive their benefits till that specific age. These children need to be homed in a transitional home. And after that fact, they need to be housed within near our communities or somewhere within our communities or even our homes to receive guidance and help and mentorship. Currently, we desperately are asking the community for your advocacy. Please reach out to your governors, your senator, your congressman, because these children that will be released in certain areas, such as Richmond or Ann Arbor, Michigan. And once they're released in that specific area, they're not able to move out of that area till the age that they are out of the system. In an instant for Virginia, the age of 21. They have to live in that greater area of Richmond. And if we don't have the support or the community support that we need, these children will be left to handle their own lives as they need to at 18, be an independent, living on their own with a very small budget. So I request from everyone in the community, if you have advocacy groups, any kind of pull within the government, please, this is the time to remember that the Afghan community desperately needs your help and support to push in advocacy to make sure we're releasing our children into Afghan American communities because of language and cultural competency issues. If not, our Muslim communities for the religious similarities and know-hows, and other communities that support us as well. We need to be welcoming in order to take care of these children as a whole in this community. So we would appreciate any help you can provide us.
And specifically in terms of fostering, if any family or parent wants to sign up for fostering, what is the process for that?
They need to go to directly to Commonwealth Charities website. They have a step-by-step process. They have monthly meetings, and now since this process has started, they've had even bi-weekly meetings through Catholic. Lutheran Services in Northern Virginia and DC and Maryland, which is the NCA one, also has their own website that they do. I've submitted several flyers online through a different organization that has their links, and I'll be more than glad to provide that. LIRS has their own direct website that they can go to, and it gives them the process. And we can also provide our contact information if anybody has questions, that we can direct them to the right websites. That's not a problem. We need a minimum of 500 families to register, because in order for 122 children to be taken care of out of those 500 families, half of them will not be meeting the guidelines, half of them might not qualify, so the rest would be our option. So this will be where we need the community's help to step up and help the children. I also want to bring in something else to the attention of the community while I have everybody's attention. Throughout, we have not experienced such change in foster system in our communities in the past. This is our first massive experience in this situation. As working and learning through this process, I have personally realized that as a Muslim community or as an Afghan Americans, we are not registered for state foster care. That's another huge issue as a community we need to look into. If you're not interested in doing this, look into your states and your local counties and register to be a foster, because there is a lot of children out in the foster care system in the states that need homes, that need your guidance and help, and they're Muslim as well. So as a community, we should help those children as well. And in the future, as more refugees come in, we will have other issues due to the trauma these people have suffered. And we might have a lot of people that, you know, in certain cases might lose their children. And it would be very helpful to have our community step up and help these children as well.
Okay, thank you for that. That's a very important call out to the Muslim community. There is certainly a well-known deficit of parents and families who are fostering Muslim kids in the system as things stand right now. And I just want to come, we're in the last sort of 5 minutes of the program. I just want to come back, just go to all of you individually. I think, Neela, you said, you made some very important points. Just going back and just sort of summing up, you know, where we're at and where we hope we will be in the future, in the near future, for our Afghan American families who are settling here, inshallah, in the near future. So, Brother Rizwan, you know, if you could make a call out to the community, what would you say were the crucial needs, the short-term, medium-term needs that absolutely need to be met?
Yeah, again, thank you again. We appreciate it. And we all, again, thank you to all the volunteers that have been helping in all the multi-faith communities. As far as, you know, right now, there's the Afghan refugees are still at the bases, and they will still need supplies and helps. You know, we again appreciate American Red Cross, who was there helping out, and Team Rubicon, who are veterans that have been helping out in the distribution of supplies. So each of the different bases have Amazon wish lists as well. And so those are, you know, so you can help, you know, Indiana, Virginia, Wisconsin, you know, Texas, you know, Fort Bliss and New Mexico. They're at those 5 places, 8 bases, you know, continue to support them. The other part is work with your resettlement agencies, you know, in the localities, volunteer, get your donations ready, financial donations, and make sure we help out finding those jobs for the Afghan refugees and welcoming them in the best possible manner. Work in multi-faith coalitions. You know, there are great examples of mosques, synagogues, churches, temples, adopting families to say, okay, we will help them for 6 months to a year. Darul Noor and the local synagogue and church have done that, and many others have as well. So thank you. And we pray for the Afghan ally refugees and for our country and for our world. Thank you.
Thank you. And to you as well, Brother Yaqub, do you want to just give me your final request for help from the community?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank Salmon Property Group, Potomac Mills Mall, to donate one of their warehouses, huge warehouse that has enabled us to collect the donations of furniture, and that is for us to get ready to once the refugees resettle, then we have furniture to set up their homes with, and so I want to thank Salmon Property Group for that, and also I want to say that through these crises, I've gotten to know some amazing people and in our community, and they are inspiring people. And then they are doing such a great job. Some of them have even quit their jobs to do this as a volunteer. And that is so inspiring. And, you know, there's some sisters like Sister Tawhida Yassin of Darul Noor. She's been doing an amazing job. And from Central Virginia, Sister Alia Farouk, she's been doing an absolutely amazing job. And also the Refugee Community Committee of Darul Noor, they've been setting up homes already for a few that have resettled in Woodbridge, Manassas area. They so, and also I want to thank the the board members of Darul Noor and Adams. Without their support, without their backing, Brother Rizwan and I would not have been able to do what we're doing today. Every time we went to them, they have never turned us down for anything. They said, go out there, do whatever needs to be done, and we're gonna stand behind you. And that is enabled us to do what we're doing today. The need is still there. From winter coats to shoes to warm clothes, because they are going to be there for at least another month or 2 or 3, and they're going to need our support on all the bases. So we need to, even though I'm grateful, they have done such an amazing job. From Florida, Virginia, all the way to California, they have done an amazing job. The Afghan American community, the Muslim community have done an amazing job. We're grateful, but it's not over. The challenge or our task has just begun. We not only have to support our government and support our different bases, military bases, and also get ready for resettlement, because the amount of money they get is so little, and they cannot afford to spend that money on furniture or on kitchen settings. So that's where we come. We are capable of doing that. We just need to collectively do it together. We'll be able to welcome them. And once again, thank you so much for ISNA. Thank you so much, Samalik, for hosting this. Appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you. And I'm just going to give the last word. We're literally the hour's up, but I want to give the last word to Horace. Can you just give us an idea of how you have found the contribution of these amazing volunteers on the ground and others across the country? How important has their contribution been to your efforts as a government official?
So the first thing that I will actually say before I even talk about the wonderful work of the volunteers is I think it's important for us as Muslim Americans to understand that this nation is a nation built block by block, brick by brick, by refugees, whether those were refugees who came here 400 years ago or immigrants who were forcefully brought here, or they came here 2 or 3 months ago. This nation has been built by those individuals. We are a nation truly of immigrants. We are a nation of refugees. We are a nation of indigenous who came here for various reasons, some to escape persecution, some to escape persecution of religion and ethnicity, and some just to get to ensure that we have a better life for our children and the future generations of our families. So that's important to realize, that this group who came here is not an anomaly. They are not out of the norm, but they are part of the tradition and beauty of America, of the immigrant and refugee past. I was a refugee, or I am a refugee, and I'm proudly a refugee in every aspect of my life. Even though maybe we might have had a little assistance in the beginning, our families and our children and our grandchildren will pay forward that assistance multifold. So I think that's important for us to understand, that these folks are not a burden on us. They're not a burden on our systems. They're not a burden on America. They will enrich America. They will make America a more beautiful and diverse place, like the generations before them that did. And then in terms of the support of communities, that is essentially what America is about. America is about communities of faith, communities of color, so many different individuals coming together and helping each other in a moment of need. I remember I was a first responder with Islamic Relief when Hurricane Katrina hit. And we were in Louisiana, we were in Alabama, and it was Americans who helped each other. When the government is not able to come in and do all of it, maybe do some of it, it's our fellow citizens that do it for us. And that is essentially the spirit, that's the Islamic spirit as well. We don't rely only on government. We rely on each other. We rely on the bond of brotherhood and sisterhood. We rely on the bond of faith, and that is why so many people, like Brother Yaqub mentioned, so many people have stepped up. They've made sacrifices. They have not slept. They have not gone to work because they see this as one of the categories. Refugees are one of the categories of people that's actually mentioned in the Quran, of people who are wayfarers and leave their home for a certain reason. That is a refugee. And it is our faith obligation. It is our citizenship obligation. It is our moral obligation to help these people, because we were once the ones who were helped.
Thank you so much, Haris. Absolutely well said. I think everyone shares all your sentiments. I just want to thank ISNA once again for organizing this discussion and for all their efforts behind the scenes to bring Afghan and American Muslims and the wider community together, and their role in helping to coordinate the welcome and resettlement process for thousands of Afghan refugees. And I also want to thank you, the audience, for joining us. And please volunteer and donate and help support all the local efforts that are going across all 46 states where refugees will be settled. Please donate and support the refugee resettlement process. Thank you all and goodbye. And thank you to our panelists, of course, once again. Goodbye.